Welcome to the Marriage Can Win show. We are your hosts, Eric and Dr. Sakeisha Hylick, your always, forever relationship experts.
Here at Marriage Can Win, we educate, empower, and encourage couples to embrace that marriage can win, especially when you focus on three key areas, which is improving your communication skills, developing sound money management skills, enhancing your level of intimacy so your marriage can win. And tonight we want to deviate a little bit. I know we've been talking about the family structure. We've been going really hard on that, but we wanted to switch it up a little bit. And I'm super excited about this. We have been talking for several months now about a book project that we are getting ready to release. And I am so excited because the time is now. We are releasing our fourth book, which is called what?
Struggling to Keep the Vows.
Now, I'm sure those of you who are out there who are married and dating, and I'm sure that you can identify with that topic. Struggling to keep your vows. It's something that occurs regularly in relationships.
Yes, too often.
Too often. And we just wanted to switch it up tonight and talk a little bit about it. Because first of all, we want to invite you guys to join us at this amazing book launch, which is going to be next week, Wednesday night.
Yes.
September 30th at 7 p.m. The event itself is free, but you must register to gain access to it. And it's really short. It's bit.ly/keep the vows. Again, bit.ly/keep the vows. So we're super excited. We'd love to see you there and celebrate with us and all the amazing authors that collaborated with us on this project. But, with that being said, we wanted to talk a little bit more about the topic of struggling to keep the vows. And it's amazing when you really think about it that when you say your vows, you hear for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. And I started doing some research on the vows, and I was reading these statistics on how other couples, they struggle to keep their vows. And the statistics were astounding. Can I share it with them, honey?
Yes, you can.
I mean, I was blown away. Now, when you think about it, that first part of for better or for worse, when they asked a group of, I think maybe 1,500 participants, I can't quite remember the number of participants in this study. They asked a combination of men and women, which was the toughest vow to keep. Oh. And the resounding one was for better or for worse. And I started thinking about it. I said, so when people are getting married, what exactly is going through their mind? What do they think is going to happen? I mean, I'm sure we all, we're all excited about the prospect of getting married and entering into the marital relationship. But we do know at some point in time, there may be some challenges that that are going to occur. But like the majority of them said that was the toughest vow to deal with, for better or for worse.
Really?
Yeah, for men and for women.
Wow.
So which one do you think was a higher percentage that said it was more difficult to deal with the for better or for worse? You think it was the men or the women?
For better or for worse?
Yeah.
I would think it was for women.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. For women, a whopping 32% of the women said that the for better or for worse was the toughest vow to keep.
Yeah, because they don't like the for worse. And I would think it's higher for the richer and poor because women ain't about being poor.
You know what? We'll get to that part in a minute. Yeah. And you know what? The results may actually surprise you. It may actually surprise some of our listeners.
Wow.
But just think about it. Now, when you ask men, what do you think they found it? What do you think was the most difficult part about or the most difficult vow for them to keep?
Staying faithful.
You're right. You are absolutely right. The majority of men in this study actually said that the most difficult vow to keep for men was being faithful. And for women, it was dealing with the for better or for worse aspect.
Wow.
And when I think about it, when you think of everything that this country has been through, like the COVID-19, this pandemic, you have to think about the for better or for worse. You mean people have been losing their jobs left and right,
Yep.
businesses shutting down, companies furloughing people.
Right.
You know, the six-figure income is no longer the norm. It's no longer a guaranteed paycheck. You're just as expendable as everybody else. So when you think about your marriage, that's a lifetime commitment, because these other things are temporary commitments. These jobs will get rid of you in a heartbeat.
That's true.
But now you're saying it's more difficult. Why do you think that is? That the for better or for worse part? I understand that sometimes a man is saying, okay, it's difficult to be faithful. And I'm not saying I agree with that by any means. But why do you think it's so difficult for women for the for better or for worse part?
Well, nobody wants the worst part, but the worst encompasses a lot. The worst encompasses the finances. It comes from the sex. It comes from the communication. So if you're just acting up and not doing what the woman wants, that's the worst for her. Or if you're making her life miserable by not cleaning up and not helping out and all them things that women want, and they think that they can change a man after they get married, that's the worst part. So they're like, you gone.
Now you want let's seriously
this is what they say. I didn't sign up for this.
Oh, wait a minute, but you did. Okay, but we'll deal with that a little bit later. But let's be honest, when we're thinking about, I think when you have women that say it's difficult to deal with the for better or for worse, I will not lie and say it's irritating about not picking up your clothes, or it's irritating about forgetting things, because that kind of sends a woman a different signal. Sometimes she might feel not unloved, unappreciated, of that you're just not listening to her. But I think the worst part extends far beyond that. A lot of the times with women, you tend to, and sometimes we give our all into a relationship, and we throw ourselves in there, and we just feel unappreciated, just taken for granted, because you become comfortable in the relationship. So you no longer do the things you used to do. It's like, oh, she's here. She's not going anywhere. No, I don't need to bring her flowers. No, I don't need to tell her I love her. No, I don't need to hold her hand. She knows. And the fact is, whether you know it or not, you want to hear it. And not only that, we want your actions to line up with that. So when those hard times hit, there is no question you're struggling to keep your vows. You may be struggling to keep the lights on. I get it. Struggling to keep a roof over your head, but struggling to know that you love me and you're there for me. You know how they say down like 4 flat tires? I don't know if that's the proper analogy to use, but it sounded different in my mind before it came out. But But seriously, the worst part are those challenging parts of the relationships. Can she trust you? Can she be vulnerable with you? Are you going to throw her past in her face? I'm thinking of the worst being those types, those or things like infidelity. Those are going to be the harder things. But, for a woman to be able to say, hey, once that trust has been broken, it takes a long time to re-earn it.
It does.
That trust. So I think that could be what they're leaning towards. I think that's one of the vows that they're struggling with, that for better or for worse. That's my perception. Now, of course, if you disagree, you have a different perspective, we'd love to hear it. Share it with us. I mean, what are your thoughts about that, honey?
Well, when you break it down to that aspect, where you're saying all those other intangible things when you say the for better or for worse, because the for better is when, life is good in the home. There's great communication. There's the finances are good. And of course, the sex and intimacy. For women, it's more intimacy, and there's more communication, more attention.
Yes.
Those things that you really don't think about when you say your vows.
Yeah.
You're just thinking, okay, I can make as long as the paycheck's there, I put a house over your head, there's food on the table, boom, that's it. But it's all the things that go, the details of that for better, because the worst is if the woman is not getting those things.
Yeah. Wow. That can be a challenge in and of itself. So
and
I can understand. For
the men,
I thought we were gonna be able to slide by that one, but go ahead.
For the men, it comes from, we like to have some peace in the house. And if the woman is nagging and always complaining, then he's getting no peace. And then he likes to have Well, it depends on what he likes and his love language. If he's not getting those things, then that's really the worst. For better is when he's getting all those things. Yeah, because like men are sight stimulated. Men, I guess, we're known for loving sex. We want it all the time. And if we're not getting it,
Can't
it's the
stop
worst.
thinking about it.
It's the worst.
But you're saying that's the worst. But you know what? I strongly urge couples to explore, why is it that you're not getting the sex? Why is it?
Okay, now I know because we've been together. It's because the woman is either overworked, tired, because she's playing the many hats. She's the queen of the house. She's the homemaker. Well, if she cooks, she cooks. If not, then she orders out.
I think that's a personal jab at me, but I will not allow
She's
that
a professional,
to
so
distract
she
me.
works. And then if you have kids, then she's also the mom. She takes care of the kids.
Yeah.
And she does the homework, especially in our family, because she's the one that's smart in the math and the school system, so she's, so you're doing homework, you're taking care of the kids, you're doing the laundry, and then we men, it makes it sound like men are just lazy.
And no, it's not that, but I do a lot of times, and no disrespect to the men. A lot of times the women do wear a lot of hats, and I'm not saying the husband doesn't, because a lot of times, his hat may be at work. She may be a homemaker. She may work outside the job, but we tend to multitask a little bit better in most instances. That's not always the case. So sometimes we may feel overwhelmed. So that can be a struggle, because in addition to the many hats we wear, you go to work, you come home, and you're looking like expecting us to show up like Victoria's Secret's model. And we're like dead tired. It's like, look, I'm just trying to keep my eyes awake, deal with the kids, give y'all some food, and it's overwhelming at times. And if not, you can cause a woman to withdraw because you just feel overwhelmed. You need that time. That's why you hear people talking about the importance of me time and self-care. It's important because you want her to show up like a Victoria's Secret's model, but she's got to still have that time for herself to go to the gym. But she's doing so many things and not taking care of herself, which we do need to make ourselves a priority. But,
Well, I know one thing y'all like to have: nails done, toes done.
All right, so let's move
on. Hair day.
But you know what? With COVID, a lot of this stuff got shut down. So you
saw
a totally different side of your woman you hadn't seen in a long time. So maybe that's the worst that they were talking about.
Yeah, maybe that's the worst part. But you know what? We do appreciate it when you do those things. We hate when you have to go do it, but we appreciate when your hair's looking good, your nails looking good, and your nice eyebrows are nice, and you got your nice lipstick on, you're wearing a nice. We do appreciate it, but we don't want you to go do it.
Okay.
Because it costs money.
You appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to say you appreciate it, but you don't want us to go do it.
We appreciate it.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. You want your woman to look good. It's an investment.
What good is it to have cake if you can't eat it?
Oh my God. Okay. So now when you think another part of the vows, when you're talking about for better, for worse, let's talk about in sickness and in health. And
that's a rough one.
That is a rough one. And I'm sure all the listeners out there can identify that, being that we just came off of we're still transitioning through a pandemic where, health is being challenged. You have a lot of people that are losing their spouses and loved ones unexpectedly. And it's very, very hard. Some of them, due to COVID-19, weren't even able to say goodbye. You know what I mean?
Yes, that is very rough. But you know what? This is really a true meter or monitor of true love, because when it comes down to life and death situations, looking past the money, looking past the beauty, looking past the sexual and the physical gratification, it comes to who you really can trust when the time of life and death situations. And that's where the sickness and in health comes play. If you can't depend on your spouse in a life and death situation, that really shows if they truly love you or not, or they bail on you. Because that's like the extent of like the far right or the far left of the situation. When you're in health, everything is good. You don't have to try to take care of someone or be there for them. But if someone gets sick and you're not taking care of, you're not there for them, and you don't really care for them, and you kind of just throw them to the side. You're like, who did I marry? Is this a real love, or is it just you marry me for my money or whatever? It's something, another motive.
Well, that's something else to be mindful of, because when you think about it, and this is something we've shared with a few close friends, intercessors. Our entire family over the summer was diagnosed. Well, everyone received a positive COVID-19 test, with the exception of our son. And that in and of itself was a trying time to watch my husband, because, I'll be transparent, I have severe asthma and difficulty breathing. So it really hit me hard, harder than, I never even thought that it was I didn't think it was going to happen to our family, and it did. But just to watch you, and I have to publicly say thank you, because you had a positive COVID-19 test. You were still working from home. You were taking care of me, taking care of our daughter. While our son, we tried to keep him locked away in a separate room because we didn't want to. We're all here in this one place. But that's a true testament right then and there. It wasn't about how I looked. It wasn't about how much money we had in the bank. It was, this is my wife and she's sick, and I got to do what it is, how it, whatever I've got to do to take care of her. And that's when that in sickness and in health vow, you can really see it. And I'll say this, to all the listeners, if you ever been through any kind of illness and that person is stuck by you, that's just something that you have to be mindful of. You have to be able to trust your spouse with your life, literally.
Yeah.
And for me, I can talk about it now, with, hopefully I can talk about it without tearing up. But I even think back to the night, with COVID-19, when I stopped breathing, and I couldn't breathe, and I was scared that was it for me. I couldn't breathe. And as I sat there and I laid there in your arms, and I could hear you praying and crying out to God, not to take your wife from you, I could feel the love that you have for me. And that is not something that can be replaced.
No.
So I admonish couples, whatever struggles you are going through, take your vows seriously.
Yes.
We may struggle sometimes. Sometimes our money may be a little funny, but you know what? You can replace that money. The houses and the cars, you can replace those things. But that person, your spouse, you cannot replace them. And I think a lot of times we don't honor our spouses enough, and it's not to put our business out there, but I sit there and I look like, the health challenges that I'm dealing with now. You learned how to give me the shots to help me be able to breathe on a regular basis. Yes. You took it upon yourself. You put reminders in your phone. Hey, honey, make sure we need to do your breathing treatments. Do we have this and that? And I'm in the healthcare and I'm used to taking care of others, but I had to be vulnerable enough to recognize I needed help to be able to take care of my own health. Right. And that's a challenging vow to deal with, but it's not impossible to overcome when you're having those challenges. So when you say it's for sickness and in health, that's some serious stuff.
It's serious.
It is. So my heart goes out to anyone who's lost a loved one due to COVID-19 or any other serious illness, but just be mindful. These vows are nothing to play with. It's not to be entered into lightly. Yes, we understand that you want to have that day you celebrate. You want the dress. You want the wedding of your dreams, but you prepare for that one day. But I swear to God, you need to prepare for a marriage for a lifetime, and that takes work.
Yes.
It does.
Yes, you got to be prepared for the richer, the sickness,
Mm.
the poor, the in health,
Yes.
through times of challenging. I mean, and honoring each other.
Yes.
And when, sometimes you may not like each other, but you still have to honor and respect each other.
Yes.
Sometimes, and then you know, being true with integrity, all these you have to take into consideration. But those are some true tests of real love. It's beyond just physicalness, just the outer appearance and things.
Yes.
It's when you marry someone, you want to make sure you marry someone when you take those vows that 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 person is someone that will be with you in times of poor, in times of sickness, in times of trouble, in times of when everyone else will just doubt you and turn their backs on you and look the other way, but your spouse will be there for you through any and every challenging aspect that life can throw against you and towards you. That's when you have true love. So this is why you can't just take vows lightly. When you get up there and you stand before God, you have to be serious about this. And you got to make sure that you have the one that you can trust.
Yes.
Just not beyond a physical. I know a lot of times, a lot of people have different reasons for marrying and standing up there taking vows.
Absolutely.
But you got to really sincerely think about what you're saying and really sincerely think about the person that you want to come and you make a vow before God too.
Yeah. So I have if you watch us anytime on social media, we're on, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under Marriage Can Win. And this past summer, we had a summit. It's called From the Vows to the Victory.
Right.
And a lot of times people think, oh, that's a cute name. No, there's a message behind it. Yes. Once you take those vows, you are going to encounter challenges. You better believe. But you can have victory in your marriage. Not victory over one another, but victory together over the enemy, over those tests, over those trials, over those challenges that will come your way. Those very things that will tear and eat at the very fiber of your marriage, that will cause you to question. But you can have the victory, but you have to recognize that number one, the two of you are on the same team.
That's right.
Which means you complement one another and not compete against one another. These teams, opposite teams, they're playing against one another, but you guys are on the same team. Means you have to have each other's back, meaning you flow in your gifts, he flows in his, and you support each other. Where he is strong, you are weak, and vice versa. You have each other's back. That's the premise of this book, Struggling to Keep the Vows. Yes, we talk about the challenge with finances. Yes, we talk about the challenges with sex. Yes, we talk about the challenges with communication. But there are so many other challenges. Something as simple as, well, I don't want to say simple, something as challenging as loss of a loved one, that impact that it can have on a marriage. Your relationship has got to be strong and solid to be able to get through some things. And I'm not saying this to incite fear, but it's to cause an awakening for people. When you're getting married, you need to take these vows seriously, because there will be some struggles. We don't hide that.
Right.
But you can still keep your vows. And when you think about it, another part of the vow is for richer or for poorer.
Right.
So which do you think the men or the women struggled more with, the richer or for poorer?
I don't know. Tell them what the statistics say.
But actually, you had more men struggling with the for richer or for poorer part of marriage vows than women. Can you believe that?
Well, I can imagine, because men like to save money and women like to spend it.
No, I don't necessarily think that's the end. I mean, there's a concern for richer or for poorer, because as a man, you want to be a provider. You want to be a protector for your family. And as women, we'll sit there, we'll hold you down. We will encourage you. Right. But when you're not at your, I don't say your best for financially, or things happen it causes you not to be able to provide for your family, that can cause men to kind of draw away, because you're
and go into the shell,
and then that causes the woman to feel he doesn't love me anymore,
unappreciated.
And it's not because you don't love her, it's because you're questioning yourself.
Right.
And that in and of itself can be a challenge. So when we're talking about the vows, when we're talking about for better or for worse, when we're talking about for richer, for poor, when we're talking about in sickness and for health, these are the things that we're focusing on in the book itself. So you can go ahead and pre-order your copy today. You know, you can go to our marriagescanwin.com website, click on shop, and you can pre-order your copy of Struggling to Keep the Vows book. And feel free to join us. We invite you next week, Wednesday, the September 30th at 7 p.m. Go to bit.ly/keep the vows and secure your free ticket. It's a free event, but you must register. And so that way we can send you the access information for this book launch. And it is going to be amazing. You're going to have, there'll be a lot of giveaways. We're going to do free, like one-on-one Q&A with the authors. And speaking of, we are going to have some of our very own authors joining us a little bit later on in this segment. We have a dynamic couple who's part of this book collaboration, and they poured their hearts out. They've been working with couples for over 15 years as well. And they were transparent in their struggles to keep the vows. And when we write books like this, it's not to get our names out there. It's to have something tangible, a tool, a strategy that couples that are struggling, they can actually use to be able to keep their vows. And that's really important, because it's not about judging you or your imperfections or your mistakes. It's helping you realize, I was in your shoes. I felt the same way you felt. I wanted to throw my hands up. I wanted to walk away. I wanted to say, you know what, this is just too much for me. But God.
So yes, definitely. We had many instances where we were struggling to keep our vows. But as you see, 22 years that we have celebrated being married, being together over 26 years. Been working with couples. Actually, we've been working with couples over 15 years.
Absolutely.
4 books later. This is our 4th book now. And so now, you know, we can tell you from experience, from training, from working with other couples, from their 20s to their 60s, married first time, premarital, second and third time married. We can tell you the challenges of keeping vows and the different, and it's a common thing from different couples.
Some commonalities.
You can when they start talking, we automatically see what the issue is. We automatically hear what the issue is. It comes down to the level of effort, the level of love that they have for each other. And you know, sometimes people say we were in love in the beginning, and now it's like, I don't love them no more. So what happened? You know, what happened? They made that vow that richer or poor, from sickness or health, you know, from good times to bad times, you know, and then, you know, I share everything I have with you. And that's one of our vows. And everything you have, you share with me, you know, and then it comes down, you hear a lot of selfishness versus selflessness.
Absolutely.
You know, and a lot of, you know, just treating each other like you want someone to treat you.
Absolutely.
And that's really the selflessness that comes up. And I mean, that's really one of the key issues. But what we're going to do, we are so blessed to have one of our authors that are going to come up next, Dr. Ken and Myra McKnight. We're going to share a little bit with you, allow them to talk and share a little bit about their aha moment in their actually, to be transparent in the struggling with they give a little preview of what they put into the book. But this is a book that you need to get as a reference. Everyone out there that's want to get married or that they are married, there's no time to say, oh, we're just fine. We hear that all the time from people. The next thing we know, they're getting a divorce or they're going through issues, or they're married and not happy. And then, you know, then they call you.
But you know what? Just think of it like this. When you get a vehicle and it's brand new, everything is fine.
Maintenance.
But at some point along the way, you need to do checkups and you do maintenance. Even though it may look like it's fine on the outside, there may be some things brewing on the inside that need to be addressed. And that's what we encourage you to do. Do a maintenance, do a checkup, check in with your spouse, start having those conversations. How can I make your life better? How can I serve you today? And I'm sure you're like, serve you? What? Ask your spouse, what can I do to make your day better today? And see what kind of response you got. So we are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to bring back in Dr. Ken and Myra McKnight, two of the amazing authors on this Struggling to Keep the Vows book collaboration project. We'll be back soon.